Hi, I'm Michelle from My Quilting Beehive, and I'm here today to talk to you about the Colchester Mill Marvelous Mystery Quilts. The 2022 Marvelous Mystery Quilt has just come to an end, and we had more than 250 people make a beautiful quilt with me this year. It was so exciting, so much fun, and I loved every minute of it. I enjoyed working with everyone, so thank you to all of you who participated in the 2022 Marvelous Mystery Quilt. If you were not able to participate in the 2022 quilt and you'd like to make that quilt, the pattern is now available as a complete pattern in my Etsy shop. And there's a link down below that you can use to get there. Now it's time to register for the 2023 Colchester Mill Marvelous Mystery Quilt. What is a mystery quilt? A mystery quilt is a quilt that you don't know what it's going to look like until you're done. Each month you'll get a little piece, maybe you'll make some 4 patches or some flying geese or some units for the quilt, and then in the end you'll put them together and figure out what the quilt is going to look like. The new quilt, the 2023 Marvelous Mystery Quilt, is going to have some diamonds in it, dazzling diamonds made with the 45-degree diamond dimension ruler by Creative Grids. I will show you how to use the ruler throughout the process. We'll have videos that show you what to do, how to make each piece, so don't be afraid by using the new ruler. It's a great ruler and it's going to make our quilt sparkle. The 2023 quilt is designed to be a 96 by 96 inch quilt. But when I designed it, I said, you know what, that's not going to fit on my king size bed. So I decided to add an option. If you have a king size bed and want it bigger, you can make it 96 by 112 for your bed. And then I made an option if you want to make it smaller because you don't like those huge quilts, you can just stop at 80 by 80. And when I did that, I was looking at the patterns, looking at the shapes, and I decided that if you just make the 80 by 80 section, you're missing out on a lot of fun in the borders. So I designed a bonus quilt. If you make the 80 by 80 quilt, you can make all the parts and pieces for the queen size, the 96 inch quilt, and use those to make another smaller quilt out of all the border pieces. So you have many size options available to you if you make this quilt. If you make this quilt with me, we will have a private Facebook group that only people who register can be part of. And that's where you can ask questions on what you're doing. That's where you can post pictures and encourage everyone to stay on track and not fall behind and keep up month by month. So that group is only for people who register at Colchester Mill Fabrics and Quilting to purchase the pattern. It's a $25 fee and it's one-time fee and it covers the entire year. And you get the year's worth of videos, year's worth of Facebook group, and the patterns each month. Now let's talk about fabric. This quilt has 7 fabrics that you're going to need. When I went to the quilt shop, I started with this fabric. I saw this fabric, I loved it. I said, I want this fabric to be part of my quilt. So this fabric is going to be fabric number 2, which is the darkest fabric in the quilt. I have to say I wanted it to be a little darker when I did it, but I just loved this so much that I decided to start with this fabric and work from there. So here's what I did for my other fabrics. There's 7 fabrics. I started with my darkest. Fabric 1 is your lightest fabric, the one that's going to pop a little bit, give you a little excitement, dazzle in your quilt. So this is my fabric 1. I decided to use fabric 2 for the one that I'm focusing on and making all my other colors match to. So that's fabric 2. And then you're supposed to have 4 fabrics that are medium value. I will admit my blue is a little dark, but I decided there's enough contrast between them. It does read a little bit as a dark, it's close in value as my dark, but I've decided to keep it in there, bend the rules a little bit, and it's okay to do that. Just make sure your fabrics have plenty of contrast because this fabric might be next to this one might be next to this one. They're gonna touch each other throughout the quilt, and you wanna make sure that you have contrast so none of them blend in and you don't lose the design in the end. So make sure they have contrast. So this should be around the darkest. 4 mediums, 1 very light, and then there's a background fabric, and I chose this light pink grunge because it just worked really well with my fabric that I picked out here. When you're picking out your fabrics, the fabric requirements are available on my website. There's a link below that you can click on to get the link for fabric requirements. There's also a link below to click on to go to Colchester Mill Fabrics and Quilting to register for this quilt. Patterns come out the first Monday of each month. And once you register, you can ask any questions in the Facebook group. And if you have any questions right now, you can send me an email at myquiltingbeehive michelle@myquiltingbeehive.com, and ask questions if you have any questions. And I hope you'll join us this year to make this beautiful quilt with us. Thanks.